good morning, good morning. I'm here with Paul Angelini, women's soccer head coach. My name is Nadene. I am the Varsity Soccer Coordinator. And we're just here to talk about how things have been throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. So good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Nadine.
Okay, we'll get right into it.
Okay.
How are you dealing with this pandemic?
Well, I think like most people, the first thing I do is try to keep up on all the recent news. This is especially true in the very, very beginning about what the virus, what it was, how is it transmitted, and I think that's always going on. I don't think you ever stop learning about the latest news on the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take a look at, how does it impact your family, your job? How does it impact varsity athletics? So you're always just keeping abreast of the most recent developments. And for me personally, it was being aware of the developments and having a lot of time to do lots of reading. So with sports reading, a lot of reading on coaching strategies, and of course a lot of reading about world events, which is of course what my job is and what I teach. So
right.
Yeah.
So speaking of teaching, being an educator, what problems/issues have you dealt with?
Well, I think it's the technology part. So now that you teach online from home, you have to take extra care to make sure that teaching doesn't become what's called a curriculum dump, where you simply take the curriculum, dump it online, and expect the students to teach it to themselves or to teach it to each other. While that being said, talking to your peers is important. It's an important part of learning, but it can't be the way to learn. And so what I find with the pandemic is finding different kinds of ways to open up questions, live questions or recorded questions where students feel free to send their answers. But what I find the greatest limiting factor in this teaching is you don't get to look at the students in their eyes. You don't get to build those personal kinds of interpersonal relationships. Seeing students at break and, as they're eating their breakfast and then talking about, what foods do you like, or what music do you listen to? I will admit this is old style teaching, but I'm old style.
Fair enough. So speaking about old style and missing things, how are you dealing with being away from the pitch? I mean, a lot of people thought that, I shouldn't say a lot of people, we'll say many people were under this notion that, okay, by June or by July, we'll be back at it. And so things are slowly starting to resume, but sports, in terms of recreationally or amongst, other than pro sports, they've still been sort of halted. So what does it feel like now to be away from the pitch?
It really does feel like something has been taken from you. You, of course, after doing this for almost 30 years now, there's a routine that you get into, and you figure, by this time every summer, we are, gearing up for the beginning of official practices. You're already confirmed with recruits, and you've confirmed with returning players. Everything is up and running, but now there just feels like there's something missing, and you have to sit down and try to figure out, okay, what is it that's missing, and what's a way of putting it back in a way that's good for the team. So we've come up with some kind of one of our coaches, Amric Hare, our goaltending coach, has decided to take on I believe it's an app, a training app that the players all and the recruits all sign up for, and then their progress of their cardiovascular training is all tracked with Amric and with each other. So this is a new and novel way of trying to deal with being away from the field and away from the team and away from the team dynamic. And under the circumstances, Amric's suggestion was spot on. So we're very pleased with this.
Nice. Okay. Have you found any difficulties thus far with communicating with, whether it be the recruiting players or your returnees? Have you found any issues with communication, or are they still fairly on top of it?
They're still fairly on top of it. There's always a few players on every team that aren't particularly responsive to emails.
Right.
So we've had to supplement that with Zoom, and I followed up with some players with phone calls just to see how they're doing, particularly the captain and the two co-captains, just to catch up with them and see what the mood of the team is and how everybody is dealing with it. And so I think it's a multi-pronged approach, but in many ways, the only thing that's lacking from the way we used to do it is the face-to-face. But the telephone calls, the emails, the Zoom, and we take it from there.
Okay. So, what are your feelings? Do you feel like we're going to get back to some sort of normalcy within this year? The OCAA has said the earliest return to not even play, but return to practice date is set for November 1st. With the way in which, the numbers in Ontario are decreasing, and they've been at a low since this pandemic started to take us over. But do you see normalcy happening, or that return date of November 1st, practice-wise? Do you think that that's a sufficient amount of time for us to be rid of this pandemic, or do you think we're definitely going to get into a second wave that may take us a little longer?
Well, I think we, as we've been doing at Sheridan, we have to listen to the scientists and we have to listen to the experts. There is no such thing as what everybody says about going back to what we used to do. So there is going to be a normal, but it's going to be a new normal. Right. And what does the new normal going to look like? What are the protocols that are going to be in place? What are the precautions that are going to be in place? And so, according to the scientists and according to other pandemics, as you mentioned, there is going to be a second wave, but nobody knows when. And it's the extent to which all the protocols are in place and people are following them, which will determine the length of getting the second wave under control. Right. And if the second wave comes before November 1st, depending on how soon, November 1st might be a realistic start date. By the same token, everybody understands soft date, not a and there's a very good chance that it could be pushed back to December 1st or till the return from December holidays to begin with. That's how I see it, and then we will all have to figure out what the new normal is.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I thank you. I thank you for your time.
Hey, no problem. Happy to be in contact and have a chat. Yes.
Yes. And continue to stay safe. And all the best to the family.
Thank you, and you too.